And the first item on our agenda is the approval of the April 14th minutes. And if there are no corrections or omissions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved.
Second.
That was Steve Turner on the so moved.
And that's
Leo on the
is that
second. Yep.
right? Okay, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Now, hey, Tracy,
Yes.
could you just give us a summary of where we are right now as far as in the event that there's a zero increase with the school budget? Could you let us know where we would be as far as our budget and the mill rate?
Okay, Stacy, just put it up on the screen. That's the mill rate would be 36.15, total budget of 27,282,205, which is a slight increase in expenditures from last year, but our grand list grew, so overall there'd be a tax decrease for the taxpayer.
In the 36.15 mill rate, what's our present mill rate?
36.53.
So that would be a decrease.
Yes.
Of 0.38 mils, over a third of a mil.
Yep.
Okay. I have gone over the town side of the budget. Excuse me. And I've got some questions on this, and I hope everybody can follow along on this. I'll try to be specific, but in the treasurer's budget, which is line 320, we had zero expenditures for 17-18, 18-19. Last year we had a $650 budget, and so far today we've only spent $4.
Yeah, it's actually parking for a seminar that Vinny went to. I budget for payroll or other legal seminars that she might have to attend. Fortunately, our attorneys have been very good and have offered a lot of free webinars, so she's been able to watch what she needs to or attend for free. You know, it's something I could take out of the budget, but knowing that if something came up and we had to attend the seminar, we'd have to, you know, have to send somebody.
I'm just looking at 3 years in a row, we've had pretty much nothing spent. What if we put that down to like 250 or something like that?
Okay.
And that would be a little saving. I also have, and everybody kind of like type in on some of these. I just have questions, and I'll go through them. But if anybody else has any questions, go ahead.
I found one.
Okay.
Street lighting. The line item for street lighting.
Mhm.
Where are we, Mike? You got? I'm trying to go down page by page.
Yeah, let me find it again.
That'll be in the 300 under Public Works. So if you want to go through the rest of the general fund.
Yeah. Why don't we just
Okay,
go straight through these?
that's fine.
Just let me know where you'd like me to be, Tracy.
So after page 1, that's all I had. And that would be what I'm proposing is a minus 400 on the one for training. On page 2, I'm looking now at the town hall building and maintenance budget. And originally I was kind of confused about this because we had proposed in the budget about 55 thousand for electrical, and we ended up with about 36,000 for heating fuel. And then when I looked at our actual through March, we only had about 16,000 in heating and about 30,000 in electricity. And I didn't know if Tracy, if that's something that just is a particular year. I
There,
know heating fuel is down, but what's on?
yeah, and on the electricity side, Matt's been making some changes to some of the light fixtures, but I don't think we really had enough history. I mean, that just happened, I would say around Christmas time. So I'm not sure if he adjusted for that in his budget.
Because he has right now almost $60,000, and we've only spent 33,000.
Yeah, at 36 through March, I updated that spreadsheet with today's figures. So he spent, yeah, 36,000 through March. So assuming another 3,000 for, yeah, what would be 46? Yeah, he'll definitely be under.
Yeah, so I was thinking if that's the case, maybe even go in at say 45,000 instead of 60, or 50,000 instead of 60.
George, Edmond here. The only thing we need to consider here is this has been an extremely mild winter, and our
We're talking about electricity, Ed.
yeah, I know that, but our system also utilizes electricity in distributing the heat with the system that we currently have. The hot water runs through it, but there's blowers that blow it, and so on and so forth. The system upstairs as well is an HVAC system that uses blowers and essentially heat pumps to create heat. So it has been an extremely mild winter, and that would be my only concern. Because I think historically over the years, it has been pretty much right on.
We should keep that in then.
That would be my concern, George. We don't want to shortchange it to only find it next year is very cold, and then we're running over. That would be my concern.
We want to leave it at around 60,000 then. We had 56,000, 52,000. Our budget was 55,000. And what you're proposing now is to go up to about 60,000.
So he's somewhere in between the high and the low, certainly closer to the high than the low at 60 versus 62. I mean, if you want to trim a few and roll the dice on that, I think we're probably safe to do that. I wouldn't want to cut it too much again for fear that we could have a hard winter and and then you're just killing that line.
Yep. Well, we're at roughly $60,000. I'll knock 5,000 over, go back to 55,000, which was last year's.
If you want to take it down to the low, I think that's again, we as we know, we're always estimating here. If you want to take it down to that lower number of 55 from 60, I don't see any major harm there. And you guys understand that these are our estimates based on historicals and our best guess.
So let's see what that would look like if we took 2,500 off of each electrical line. Stacy?
Yep.
Or Tracy, did I say Stacy?
I knew you meant.
Okay. And then under heating fuel, we budgeted 32, then we budgeted 26, then we budgeted 18.5. You want to keep it at 18.5. We're a little bit under that, but when the heating year is over, but I suppose we could keep that at the same. Does anybody have any feelings about that?
I don't know what next year is going to bring, but right now, prices are down. We don't know if that'll be the case next year.
Tanks. We ought to top off the tanks.
It's gas,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Bear in mind, most of what we use is natural gas. The only facility that burns any oil at all, really, or I won't say any, but who may tend to burn oil would be the center school. All the others are pretty much on natural gas. Black Rock is independently on natural gas, no oil whatsoever.
Okay. Now, going over onto page 3, and the first item I have on page 3 has to do with the call money for the fire department. I brought this up to Tracy last week, and she did some research for me. And every year we budget $20,000 for call money, and I guess every year they have been managing for the last couple of years, managing it themselves, and so we're going to be asking them to provide us with lists of what people are being paid. They did do that recently within the last week, and they're very close to the 20,000. Tracy, the only question I had when looking at their report was that they pay most of it every 6 months. Do they do it semi-annually? They make their payments?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, the numbers that I gave you were from the bank statement, so it's when the check's cleared, but they do issue them twice a year.
Okay. I then had, looking at professional and technical services, we budgeted 1 year, or we actually spent about 2,800, then about 1,600. We budgeted 6,000. We've only spent $670.
Which, are you under pension or the volunteer plan?
This is under volunteer fire.
Okay, so the bills just came in for that. We do an actuarial study on that every other year. So we did just receive a bill from the actuary on that isn't in there yet. The other thing that we pay out of that is when the volunteers retire and need a report from the actuary on what their benefit will be, and that's just a guess.
You know
So
where we are.
it
Seemed like a big jump last year when we went from 1,500 to 6,000. And I don't know what the bill is that you just got in, but we're only at $600 right now.
I think it was around 2,400, but I won't swear to that. I just want to look and see.
So that'd be about 3,000.
Yep.
You think that we'd be safe if we went down to 5?
Yeah, the highest one over the last 3 years was 3,800 1 year, so we could even go down to 4 probably and be okay.
Yeah, I don't even see that one. I've got 2,795 and 1,580.
So 2017 was 3,800.
Okay.
Yeah, 27 and then 15. Yeah.
So you think we could go to 4 there?
Yeah.
Okay. Under fringe benefits, and I had a question about this. Again, right now we're only at 10% of our budget for expenditures. Are we gonna get a big bill at the end of the year?
On the payment in lieu of health? That line?
Yes.
That's the police contract says that they receive their payment in lieu of taking health benefits in June. So yes, there is a big
Okay,
payout
all right.
at the end of the year.
okay. And they requested 51,200, which is about a 25% increase, or
Yep.
21% increase.
The two newest officers in the police department are both taking payment in lieu of health instead of taking the insurance benefit.
Okay, all right, okay. We gotten up to the part that Mike had a question on yet, or no?
Nope, not yet.
No, not yet.
Okay. So now, I'm looking at page 4. And this would be under police. Is Jeff Madden there?
I am.
Okay, Jeff. Okay, I had 11,000 for clothing allowance, and Tracy, you and I talked about this. So far spent about 2,500. I guess at the end of the year, there's a, they go out and spend their clothing money.
They do. It's always at the end of the year. Most of them do it in May or June. They'll go out and they'll spend their $800.
Okay, all right. I know I'm bringing these up when we see at the end of, we're at the 3/4 point, but if you only spend 10 or 15%, I'm questioning why, but a lot of it is because of the timing on spending. So
Right.
that takes care of that. Vehicle maintenance is down quite a bit over the last 2 years. We had about 7,000, 7,500, and then we budgeted 8,500. We're down to 1,800. Is there a reason for that, or just lucky?
George, you still talking to me?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Vehicle maintenance is it's
I
much
don't
lower.
see on my screen what you're looking at. So
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Vehicle maintenance is at 21% of what we budgeted.
okay.
It's actually up to 51% now
Oh, it is.
through April.
Okay. All right. Okay.
A lot of those bills from my vendors come in later, and
Yeah. No, I know. It's a
Yeah.
timing thing.
it is.
We're just questioning stuff when it looks like it's a little bit different.
I'm saving money, but not that good.
Same thing with gasoline. Are we getting another bill in soon on that? Because I've got 27, 26, we budgeted 34, and we're down to 18. So, they asked for 34.5, and we so far are down to 30,000 for the proposed budget. I didn't know if with the price of gas, how long that's going to hold, but
As of right now, he's spent 22,000 out of that, but we don't have the April recorded yet. I wait till after the end of the month, and then I download the reports from the fuel system at the highway department.
okay. You see that we should be about right on that, Tracy?
Yeah, 30's probably maybe a little bit high, but I wouldn't say it's really high.
Okay.
George, economists believe that they're going to cut capacity to get the prices back up. So we might be fine. It depends on what happens in the first 6 months of next fiscal, but in the back half of next fiscal, I think things are going to come back up.
We have a contracted price for gas and diesel. I can't tell you off the top of my head. Tracy may be able to, on how much we are contracted for per gallon. So we have that for essentially how long, Tracy? When does that expire, that contract?
I think Glenn has it running July to June now, so that it runs.
That's what I
this year.
thought too, but I wasn't going to swear to it.
I think we're locked.
Yes, it is.
Both rates.
Yes, it is. Yeah, we're all set for next year.
Okay,
Actually, I think it's less than, a little less than what we're paid for this contract we went through, I think.
That's correct. Not substantially less, but it was a couple of pennies, as I remember, 2 or 3 cents less a gallon.
Yes.
How soon can we negotiate the following fiscal?
Yeah, if you wanna prepay, you could pay for, upfront for, 21, 22.
That is correct. The prepayment, that is.
Yes.
I don't know that we want to do the capital outlay. I guess that's where the question would lie.
And what is the total contract worth?
Glenn, do you remember? Is it 25?
Not off the top of my head, no. I think we only lock in for a certain amount of gallonage for diesel and the gas, and they were off on the calculations. So in the past year with Dime Oil, we've got them down to where they should be. Because once you go past what you already locked in for the price, once you get past that gallonage, then you're paying what the market value is.
Yeah, it's just that the forward rate's really low. And I don't know that anyone would even offer a contract at this point for
Yeah, I think they'd be crazy if they did, but
today's forward rate versus,
yeah.
our next fiscal year. So just a question. Sorry for the diversion.
no, that's all right. For you, Rich, you're okay with just leaving it where it is?
I am.
We're at 30,000,
Yep.
which is about 3,000 or 4,000 higher than it was in 19. Okay. I had a question going into emergency management. Association dues and permits. We had $100, then $0. Then we budgeted $200 and we've spent $0. And now we're jumping up to 2,800 or 2,600, I believe. No, 28,
Oh.
I can't read.
The increase is the town's portion of a FEMA grant. We have to match. Ed, do you remember what that was for? It's the pre-disaster mitigation something. It's a 3-year grant, and we had to match 50% of it.
Yeah, that was a one-time deal that's going through councils of government, if I remember correctly. And it's our match for 3 years worth of it, so that they can manage it and bring in hopefully more revenue to the towns and the councils of government through it. It was our piece as it relates more specifically to the councils of government than anything else.
Right. Just when I saw a 1,300% increase, thought I'd ask the question. All right. The next thing is under the firemen, fire protection. We've got under salaries, we have 4,000, 4,000, 4,080, and it's proposed to go up 157% to 10,500, which seems like a pretty big jump. Any comments on that, Ed or Glenn? You're here. I don't know if is Jimmy here?
Yeah, I'm in. Can you hear me?
JP's there too.
Yeah, I'm here too. Oh, there's JP. That's good.
Oh,
You can speak to. We're asking for an increase for both the chief, well, both assistant chiefs and the chief. And, it's a big job and they've been underpaid for a long, long time. And, we'd like to see them.
Have you guys gone and done any research on what the other towns similar to us are paying?
You'd be pretty surprised. But Watertown, I believe, is around 40,000, the salary for their chief. And, just to put into perspective, our cleaning lady that cleans the firehouse gets paid more money than basically what we're proposing.
One thing we've got, JP, is we have other volunteers in this town get paid nothing.
Right. But they probably don't have the liability that our chiefs have.
Well, the volunteer ambulance corps certainly does. You know, they have liability and they put in an awful lot of time.
Yeah. I'm not taking anything from anybody, but you know, we would definitely like to see them have an increase in pay. I think it's well deserved, and I think it would be a good tool in the future also.
Yeah. Do you have a list of the surrounding towns, what they get paid?
Do you have one, Glenn, or?
No, the only, well, we did,
We can get one to you.
we did a little research. We checked within the surrounding towns. I know Chief O'Neill knows what Terryville gets. Watertown's chief is 40,000 plus a vehicle, plus he gets the stipend that they get. Their deputy chief is 20 to 30,000, plus he gets a vehicle. We checked with the town of Wolcott, which is, they're a little bit bigger than us. Their chief gets a vehicle, and the assistant chief gets a vehicle. I'm not sure. I think Chief O'Neill checked with Terryville to see what they were getting.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Can you hear me, George?
Yes,
Okay.
Jim.
Yeah, Terryville, the chief, I believe gets $5,000 a year. The deputies get 2,500 apiece. There's 3 of them, and a vehicle. The chief gets a vehicle.
And you get a vehicle, correct?
Yeah, no, I'm saying you just asked this. I'm just telling you that's kind of how it's laid out with them.
Can you just give us a breakout for some of the towns on what they're getting paid and what any other benefits that they get, like pensions or anything like that?
Yeah, we can put something together for you.
Okay.
Let me just, this is Ed Moan. I'd just like to add, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I believe the fire chief in Watertown is full-time, is he not?
No, he's not.
Did they reduce that?
Never was. It was never a full-time position. The full-time positions were the fire marshal and the deputy fire marshal. It just happened that for years, the fire marshal and the deputy marshal were also the chief and the assistant chief.
Okay, then I stand corrected,
The money's in the
I knew
fire
he was
marshal's
full-time.
office. It's not in the chief's position.
Gotcha,
I mean, it is a lot of money, but the chief's job is only part-time. Chief and deputy are only part-time in Watertown.
gotcha.
So can I ask for like a breakdown of where these roles are today versus where we want to take them to, so we can see the percent increase? And then can I also know when the last time we made an adjustment was?
I believe they've been getting the 2% a year that Ed likes to keep with, but yeah, we just like to bring it up to what other people, what they deserve, basically. I know it's a big jump, but 2% would only be $82 divided by 3 people. And so it's been falling behind for years.
No, and I'm not questioning that. I just need to see the from too, so I can have a better understanding of what we're talking about.
Yeah, we had under the 17-18 budget was 4,000. 18-19 was 4,000, and 19-20 was $4,080, and they're proposing to take it from $4,080 to $10,500, which is a 157.35% increase.
Yeah, I see that, but I just don't know which role is going from into which, because that's 3 different people, right?
Yes.
Correct. Yep.
Right.
So
Okay.
how much is
We were
okay? So
we were thinking of breaking it down to 6,500 for the chief and then 2,000 apiece for the assistant chiefs.
okay, and then there's a vehicle involved
Mhm.
for the chief only.
Yes, at this time.
Okay, and what is why are you proposing vehicles for the deputies?
No.
I would love to if I could figure out where to get them. They sure as heck deserve them. It'd make our life a lot easier, but no, there's nothing in the budget for those, George.
Okay. And then how about gasoline? How much do you guys get for that?
The chief's vehicle traditionally is unlimited. I'm not sure what that runs. It runs about 35 gallons a month, maybe a little bit more, depending on how many calls we're on and that kind of stuff. And each deputy gets, or each assistant gets 35 gallons a month for business conducting. So it averages out about even for the chief's vehicle, about a tank a month, because it's a 35-gallon tank.
Okay.
So out of the 4,080, how is that broken out across amongst the chief and the two deputies?
2,900 for the chief and 590 for each of the assistants.
And that, if I can jump in for a second, that's kind of my big bone. I mean, I'm not asking for any necessarily more money for myself, but I really think when you look at the other towns and you look at if you were to look at the work that my two assistants put in, I think $500 a year is an insult. That's just me as the chief of department. I just think and I've said that, and JP can echo these thoughts. I've said that for years in the Board of Fire Commissioners meetings. I just don't think that's a reasonable amount of money for the hours that they put in, as much, because they put in almost as much as I do. I mean, it's a team effort.
Jim, can I just say, we don't doubt, that you guys put in a lot of time. One of the things that I have to look at too is that, and I'll just bring it up mostly because I'm very aware of the hours that are spent by our volunteer ambulance drivers who on a weekly basis put in call time of a significant amount of time. I remember when I was doing this, just regular ambulance volunteers, some of them were putting in over 1,000 hours each year, easily over 1,000 hours for no compensation. And the officers were putting in even more time. So it's not that, if you're considering it a slap in the face that, your deputy chiefs or you're not making as much as you think you should be making. We're also looking at the other volunteers in this town that are doing an awful lot of work and putting an awful lot of time and have a lot of training involved also that are making nothing. And, it concerns me that, and I value what you guys do, but at the same time, I value what other people are doing in this town as well for no compensation. So when you say it's a slap in the face, maybe it is, but then we're slapping everybody in the face.
Well, that's fine. I'm just giving you my perspective of how I feel about my two assistant chiefs. That's all.
Yep. All right. Well, listen.
You also have to remember too. The ambulance people are getting paid. They're getting $15 a shift or more. So there's some comp things in there too. So
do the deputy chiefs get call time?
They get $7 a call when they go.
Okay. All right.
So that averages out to probably another $400 a year, maybe.
Well, there's a lot of people making more than that because we're 1099ing a lot of firemen, so they must be making more than what, $600, Tracy? Is that the number?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, some of the members are, and I'm not disputing that.
All right. Is that something you could get us a breakout of some of the towns?
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you get my, Jim, did you get my email about this?
No, I did not.
We
were just working on, we were just working on the last discussion we had at the last face-to-face meeting. And then we started working on this. We found some basic information again, and then of course, as we all know, the world went to hell, and we've kind of been focusing on the hell. I mean, we're living on these WebEx meetings with the states and the feds and everybody else trying to figure out what's going on and reacting to what's being put in place. So some of this stuff is a little more research is kind of honestly and truly is kind of taking a back seat to us kind of trying to deal with this Corona-19 thing.
Okay.
You know?
Um,
But if you want to resend the email, I'll be more than happy to work on it for you.
Yeah, I had I sent an email out. I hope it was your email, but I sent an email to Jim O'Neill concerning call payments, in getting an audit line on the call payments, and I sent it out April 22nd, but I didn't hear back from you on that. But
I never saw that email. I saw the emails going back and forth between Tracy and Kim, but that was it.
all right. Well, that's what precipitated the thing, was my email to you, but and finally
Okay, that's fine.
Tracy went to Kim, but she cleared that up. So I just didn't know if you were getting my email from that.
I'm going to find out. I'll look tonight. I can double check.
Actually,
Maybe
it was a text message.
It was a text message.
Yep.
No, though, that I know I never got. Because I would know if
April 22nd. Okay.
yeah, no, I never got that.
Well, how about in the next week or so, can you get us a breakout of like some of the similar towns to us?
Sure.
Harwinton, Litchfield, Terryville, Watertown's 3 times the size of us. I wouldn't use Watertown. Something more like Prospect, some of those towns. Wolfgate.
Sure. We can do that
Okay.
for you within a week or so. Yeah.
All right, good. All right, thank you.
You're welcome, George.
Yep. I had a question on professional and tech region fees. And, no, excuse me, hold on. Educational training,
Yes.
we had 10,000 and 11,000, then we budgeted 14,700,
Correct.
and so far to date we've spent 6,000.
You are correct.
Okay, do you expect some big bills coming in the next 3 months?
Yes and no.
Okay,
Again,
can you explain
going
that?
back, let me explain. The majority of that money was pretty well spent. But again, when COVID-19 hit, every training, every seminar, anything that anybody was going to and was going to have to pay for, including our annual 2 live burns at the fire school in April, has been shut down. So, and that ain't happened. There's nothing coming back this fiscal year. So there was money being spent that was budgeted to be spent on training that has been shut down because the state's been shut down, and all the training avenues and training activities and classes and whatever you want to say are non-existent. The world
Okay,
just came to a stop around the middle of March. So that's why you see that big number.
Okay, so you expect that it's going to go back up?
Well, I expect it's going to be the same next year. I don't expect it to go back up before the end of the year because everything is pretty well, most of the training stuff is pretty well shut down. Our live burns are gone, et cetera, et cetera.
If I could just interrupt, I apologize, but whoever is doing the cooking in the background, if you could please mute yourself.
No, that's somebody running around my house. I'm sorry. I'm trying to talk. I just moved into another room, Tracy. Stacey.
Sure.
Okay, so Jim, not counting the year we're in, the last year we had was 11,400.
Mm-hmm.
We're at 6,100 right now.
Okay.
Do you think you can go down to 12,000 or 12,500?
Go down to what? Hang on a second. You're going to hear some beeping. Let me get my numbers. Here in the kitchen table. It's something we could consider.
Yeah, I mean, if there is necessary training and you're over your budget, by a few $100, you just come to us.
Okay, no, that's fine. Like I said, I mean, we looked at this line item and when everything hit the fan, and we went, uh-oh, because
right. Well,
we knew.
I appreciate the explanation because it was a big drop. We were at 42% of your budget,
Yeah.
And so that alerts us to, are we budgeting too much? So you explained why it's down. The question is that I have is, does it need to be 14.7 or can we knock it down a little bit?
If you, I would, JP, can you jump in here?
Yeah, that's actually 2 years flat at that 17.
The 11,000 was in 2018-19. Then we jumped up to 14.7 this year. In the 14.7, we've expended 6,200 of it. So the question is the 14.7, is that where you expect the training to be next year?
I hope so. I'd say yes, but you know, again, I can't, I know what you just said. I can't, based on, we don't know where this whole thing is going to go. I can't predict the future. You know, we can set everything back up again. And if this thing outbreak happens again next fall, then everything is going to get shut down again. And we're going to be behind the 8 ball. You know, we're going to be sitting, you know, that's the big unknown for me, George. I mean, you know, if you feel like you need to do something, a little bit of something in training, that's fine. Okay. But I'm just saying, I want to do what's, yeah, I understand
what we expect. So if you expect 14,700, then that's what we should put in there. If it's 13,000, then that's what we should put in. Nobody has a crystal ball here.
No, I understand.
I'm comfortable with that 14.7. And, you know, if we have leftover, then, you know, we'll have leftover. I'm predicting that we're going to have leftover this year.
It doesn't work that way, JP, because once it's in your budget, it's yours. We don't take it back out. We don't go line by line and say, oh, well, you didn't spend all of this, give us back $2,000. So once it's in there, it's in there. And we can't get it back.
So can I just ask the question a little bit differently? Because I think there's still some clarity that we're missing, right? Last fiscal year, you spent just under $12,000, right?
12.4 or 11.4.
11.4.
11.4.
So what additional training is required that came about brought it from 11.4 to 14.7? Can you tell us what that requirement change was?
Oh, well, that was easy. We came up short last year again because there was Chiefs training that got postponed and changed out of the way that we were never able to go to. Again, NFPA and OSHA state that that every different level of firefighter has to be trained to a higher level. So when you get to our positions, and the training director's position, you're talking about upper level management classes. And that is some traveling to do. You've got to go out. The state doesn't offer those level of classes for chief officers. So that's where that extra money didn't get spent last year, if that makes any sense.
It gets spent because it wasn't a requirement? Because it wasn't even in your budget. So are you saying
right, because it wasn't in our budget, we put it off. We were planning to do it again this year. We had our stuff set to go at a couple of different things, and again, it got shut down. We were just
how much is that training?
Huh?
How much is that training?
It's probably a good $2,000 to $3,000 extra. It's probably an extra $1,500 a chief, because you have to go a distance, be it Indianapolis or be New York or wherever, to get the training. It's not going to Bridgeport, or it's not going to, you know, to Boston or something like that. But that's, you know, there's a couple of bigger seminars that are specifically designed for chief officers and chief officers as a whole. And that's what the three of us, especially Chief Clark and I, were focusing on. You know, it's trying to get the department to the next level. You know, and meet these requirements.
Okay, so you want the 14.7?
I'm comfortable with the 14.7.
Custodial services, is there a reason why they just didn't get paid yet, or what? Right at the very end, we're budgeting 11,000, we're at 4,000.
Yes,
We're at
yes.
a third of budget.
Yep. There's we along with the cleaning lady, there's two general cleanings that are done a year by a contractor. The June cleaning, which is usually about the first week of June, we get it done June and December, is much more extensive than the cleaning that is done in the fall. Okay, so the bill is bigger. So when it comes to the spring cleaning, they go through the whole firehouse and clean everything. They clean the carpets, which they do anyways. They do that. We will have all the walls washed and sanitized. We have the truck room taken care of. We do, there's a thorough top to bottom cleaning done by Watertown Cleaning. And Fish, which has another company which has to come in and do the windows now because of OSHA requirements. But that's why you see that number still out there. Plus what our regular weekly cleaning is, which again, in this case, she's been doing a lot more. She's actually been coming in 3 times a week and sanitizing since COVID hit. Doorknobs, handrails, window, you name it. But yeah,
how
but
much
the
is
big
this contract for June, Jim?
Huh?
How much is the contract for June?
I would have to go look that up. I don't know that off the top of my head. I'd have to see what we paid out last year. But
is it the same? Do you have a contract with them, or?
Yeah, it's they've been doing it for years, so it's whatever the number is.
Right. Can you get me that?
I put the budget.
I got one of them. Watertown Cleaning was like 2,700. It's 2,675.
That's for one cleaning.
Yes, for one of those. And then the Fish for the window cleaning was $250.
Okay, so that's about 3,000.
Is that the December bill or last year's bill, JP?
Those are last June's bills.
Okay, thank you, Tracy.
Yep.
So that's around 3,000. And how much is your regular cleaner?
$120 a week.
And so we have about another 1,500 there, something like that.
Yeah, depending on whether it's 4 or 5 weeks. Yeah.
That's just about 10 grand.
Okay. So do you think you can do this on 10/5?
Hang on a second. We can try.
Yeah,
I mean, the thing that I'm trying to get these people to do is to give us numbers in December for the coming year. I think I've got the Diane Pleasant online with that. It's getting Watertown Cleaning online because I get these requests from them, and I've gotten them in the past from Diane or whatever. I want to put in raise you up. Can we do this for the budget? I'm like, the budget's already in for next year. So these numbers that we kind of put together for this year were based on what we actually spent last year when JP and I sat down. JP and I sat down and looked at these numbers because all these numbers, but the custodial numbers were put down basically on what we spent last year. So we could we might be able to do 500 less. We can try it.
Well, I mean,
if we need to adjust next year, we'll do that. That's not a.
Now we probably should just do these on annual contracts so that you know exactly what it's going to be through the year. 'cause I hate to budget on something that happened last year and hope that it's gonna happen again this year.
Well, the budget that you see this year, the numbers that we got this year was, we physically asked them. We know that Diane's 120 a week. We know that's a given. And we went to Watertown Cleaning and said, give us your numbers.
Yeah.
And then
We're at 75% of the year. I'm looking at, between 15 and 1,600 bucks for regular cleaning and about 3,000. So that's 4,500 added to what we have now, which is, if I read this right, about 4,000. So I'm
okay.
I'm at like 8,000 or 9,000 in the budget of 11.
Looking, got it.
We're at 4,000 now. And it just doesn't seem possible that you're going to spend $7,000 in the next 3 months on cleaning. And next year, even if they bump you up 5%, we're still not even close. So I don't know if there were some other things that happened, Jim, because it was 7,000 one year, and then it jumped to 11,000. I don't know if that was an unusual thing that you had to do that year. Why it jumped
the reason,
to 4,000?
yeah, I think I explained that a couple of years ago when it went up. That was because the price of Watertown Cleaning. We had this discussion in your meetings. That's because Watertown Cleaning went up on their prices. The gentleman that had the company before these people bought it. The guy that bought it actually lives in town, but he looked at his numbers and came and sat with us and said, "You guys were getting this for practically free. I don't even know how he was making any money on this, because here's my numbers and here's what it cost me to buy a 5-gallon pail of wax, and this stuff isn't even covering it." So then we started making, this goes back to Kenny, we started making adjustments based on what his numbers were going to be to get the job done. And like I said, we've in the past have bid it out and we don't get any takers. And quite honestly, they both are weekly and our twice a year, they both do a good job. So that's why those numbers were somewhat adjusted up because of that. And we did have that discussion last year or the year before, I forget which. But yeah, if you want to take it down a bit, we'll see what we can do. I mean, we'll work out a contract with them. I don't have a problem with that.
Well, I'm looking at what you're telling me the next 3 months holds, and I'm coming up with say another 4,500, 4,600. That gives us maybe 8,600 to finish off the year, which means you're going to be $3,000 to the good on that.
Okay.
So I don't know. I'm looking just at the numbers that I have in front of me. That's all. It would seem to me that we could go down to 10 on that without any problems. And if it is a problem, if something comes up,
come back and see you.
Come back and see us. But,
yep. Okay. That's fine.
All right. I mean, we've been good to you guys. I mean, we're not trying to.
Oh, no, I understand completely.
If we can save a few bucks here and there without hurting you guys, that's what we'd like to do. And in the long run, if there's a problem, you just come back to see us.
That sounds fair.
Okay.
What's that number, George?
That would be 10,000 instead of 11. I just, again, I'll bring up probably the last thing on you, Jimmy, is heating fuel. And I know, again, we're having a better year than we've had in a long time, but we were at 13,003. Then we went down to 93. We dropped $4,000. Then we jumped back up to 12,000. And now we're down to 6,000 at this point. So I don't know where we're going on this.
Yeah, because my numbers, if I'm reading these right, my numbers are telling me that we're in the hole.
No,
We
that's
spent 100. Is
Sorry.
that correct?
No, that's because there's a blanket out there, Jim, for the whole year's worth.
Oh, that's right. Okay, that's right. Okay, you can speak to this better than I can. That's right. That comes out of your directly out of your from uptown.
Right. So at the beginning of the year, we put in a blanket for the whole amount that you budgeted, so that as the bills come in, we can just pay them here.
Okay.
But yeah, you've spent about I think it's 3,400.
Okay.
So I don't know where we are on that. We went from 13,400 to 9,300 up to 12,000. We spent 6,000. It would seem to me that the 1,200's a little high. 12,000's a little high.
Well,
I don't know.
Yeah, remember we
is it part of a single contract though, or?
Yeah, that's the gas company.
Yes,
Heating
we're
is
locked
gas.
into a rate with Yankee. Yep.
Okay.
Is that metered, Tracy?
Is it metered? Yes.
Okay, so that's your actual use then.
Yep.
So what do you
I
think?
just want to throw in there.
Yeah, go ahead.
That, yeah, we did see a savings. We did just get the roof done. So these numbers are still kind of new to us as far as, with the new roof, with the insulation goes. We have seen a savings and it's been working out pretty well.
Good. What does everybody think on that? I mean, it's, we're only spent 50% of our budget. So you want to drop it down a little bit? I'll try to get it more in line.
I think we'd be comfortable dropping it down $2,000.
Down to 10 grand.
I was going to say 1,000 just because we don't know what next year will bring. It's the same scenario as before. We don't know if next year is going to be a tougher winter. We do know we're realizing savings from the new roof, but
And they're getting a new boiler. Well, the bids are due in a couple of weeks, so they'll be getting a new boiler before next budget.
That'll be definitely more efficient than the one that they have, correct?
Well, yeah, the one we have is 40-something years old. It's original.
okay.
Yeah. So I mean,
Well,
$2,000 is not.
That yeah, with that knowing we're going to have more savings, yeah, I think $2,000 is on the money.
It still leaves you a good cushion.
Yeah.
So Tracy, can you do 10 on that line?
Yep.
Okay. I just threw this in. This is the last thing, Jimmy, I promise you.
That's okay, George. Go ahead.
We had on gasoline, just questioning, because I look at the percentages spent.
Yeah.
And normally, with some exceptions, we're at 75%. And we've spent 49% on gas. Is there a reason other than the fact that the last few months the gas prices have been dropping, or?
No, I can't answer that question. I mean, if we're down on calls, we're down on fuel,
and we're down on training also. So
we're down on that's true. We're down on training, so that
we probably use more fuel in training than actually on calls actually.
It's on the diesel side, so that makes sense that it would be the trucks, not the gas is pretty much in line.
Let's see.
Thanks, Tracy. I don't see that number.
17, 18, we're at 5,600. Then we went to 6,000. Then we went to 7,200. And we've spent 3,500 this year.
So we do have an anomaly because there's no training going on right now. We don't know if next year that'll pick up again.
Is 50?
George, I don't know that.
Go ahead.
I'm not sure I would touch that line, George.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm going too, Rich.
Okay. And Tracy, I don't, under fire marshal training, we're down to 34% for expenditures. It's a small line. I'm not really upset about it, but is there a reason we're only at 40%? Do they get their training near the end of the year, or?
I'm just looking at to see if I can see when they spent it last year. Give me 1 sec.
Yeah, there is. I can't totally speak for Bob, but all the training, again, all the trainings that we're mandated to go to in the conference, which is mandated hours, which usually happens in April. Again, all that stuff, that stuff usually happens more towards the second half of the year. All that stuff, because that's what I do for a living. All that stuff has been shut down. Okay. So there's no conference fees, so that I can't totally speak for Bobby, but I can tell you off the bat, that's why that number is probably so low. Because
the big one last year was the CFMA conference, Jim, that was 260 for each of the three of you. So that was the biggest one towards the end of the year.
Right, and that's the one that was scheduled to happen this month and then got canceled because of what's been going on. Okay. And we don't know if they're going to reschedule it or not.
Okay. Moving into ambulance on page 5, I had a question, Tracy, that we had nothing for building improvements over 2 years, nothing from computer equipment and software for 2 years. And in the last year, we had nothing for machinery and equipment. So we budgeted $6,500 for those 3 items, and we haven't spent a penny on those 3 items this year.
Yeah, I don't get any kind of breakdown on the ambulance budget. Mike Clarity just sent it over like this, but I agree. I'm looking at the last few years, and they did buy, I think they bought 1 defibrillator in 2018, but that was the only equipment it was purchased out of any of those lines.
Right. Again, if I don't know why we're budgeting $6,500 when in the last 3 years we're not spending it.
Right.
Seems to me that we ought to cut that back, and if they need something, they come to see us. What does everybody think about that? I mean, I don't know.
It's hard to say because there's no explanation as to why it hasn't been spent or why it's in the budget at all.
Yeah, it hasn't really only $1,300 has been spent over 3 years.
Is there any way we could reach out to them and find out what their intentions are this year?
Yeah. Young Mike Flaherty is the new president. Tracy?
Yes. I'm sorry, I was just looking. They do have $6,700 in a capital account for defibrillators. So if if they did need to replace them, I know they have to replace them every so often in the town buildings, and they usually pay for that, but they do have some money in capital for that. The only thing I can think of off the top of my head that they might have budgeted for. But I can reach out to Mike and ask him for more information on that.
Okay, and could you get back on that for us for the hearing?
Yep.
For those items, and see if there's anything that can be saved there.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Again, under canine control, we're at 47% of budget. I know we're switching things around, Ed, and maybe you could explain why we budgeted 27,000 and we've spent 13,000.
I can answer a piece of that. The last line of that budget is the report that goes to the state, and I can't file that until June. It's based on the activity at the number of impounded animals, and it's done in June, and I pay it then. So that's a big piece of their budget, that $3,600.
Okay.
All right, so if you take that and you close out the salaries for the rest of the year, you're pretty much there, right?
Pretty close, yeah.
Within, I don't know, 1,000 or something.
Yeah, it's yeah, because if we're averaging just under 2,000 a month, and we've got 3 more months to go, plus that 3,600, there's 9 or 10,000 there. That'll get us up to probably 24,000. You okay with that, Tracy?
Yeah, yep.
Okay. Under highways and streets, I want to just take this opportunity to commend Glenn for the job he did on the weather this year. Thank you.
Let's hope it stays that way.
You know, every
Yeah.
time you say that, it snows, right?
I think
Yeah,
last time
don't.
he said it, it did.
Yeah. I mean, not where I am, but where
Thanks, George.
Okay. Now, I do really have a question on overtime, though. Going back a few years, we had 5,000, 6,100, and then we jumped it to 12, and we dropped down to 3,300. I know that we almost doubled our overtime from the last year into this year. And of course, thank God it didn't even come close to that. But do you think that we could go back to 10 on that?
Which account? Snow and ice?
This is overtime.
Overtime.
In your regular budget, Glenn, not in snow and ice.
We had 5,000. We had 5,000. Then we had 6,100. Then we jumped it to 12,000, so we doubled it.
Right.
And we're down to 3,300.
I think we jumped it up, George, because of the Hickory Hill Road project was supposed to start. And I think that's why we did that.
And that's happening this year now, right?
We
think.
Okay.
We'll let you know when it happens.
We do have several road projects going this year, so
Yes.
that is the rationale for the additional overtime. And Glenn would be better adept to say that. Minimally, we have a couple.
That explains it. Thank you. Okay, on page 6, snow and ice removal. You're proposing to keep it at the same amount as last year, 130?
Yes.
And basically, that's right where we've been for the 2 years previous to that. So keep it at
Correct.
130. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, last year with you guys' advice, you said to jump it up to that, so we did.
Yep. Okay. Now, as far as the salt, the liquid de-icer, we didn't use as much, did we?
No.
Okay, so we've got it stockpiled. Are we taking that into account that we don't have to buy what we've stockpiled?
We usually do that every year, George. That's what keeps it down. You never know with the storms. Like you said, obviously we had a very good winter to us.
Right.
But with the 2 sheds that we got, we only usually hold about 1,800. We contract it out for, we get our bid price for 1,500 ton. That's about what we use for the year. but it depends on the storm. If we have ice storm, we use more. Like the last ice storm that we had towards the end, I mean, we used a little over 200 ton of salt, which is a lot of salt.
Yep.
When you have the snow, you use less. You use probably 100. So it's really hard to judge. When we did our budgets, they were towards the end of the winter. So, but the shed there's one that shed is full. It's about 400 ton, and then there's another one that's probably 3/4. As far as the liquid, we don't use the liquid anymore. I have it there, which we try to get rid of it as much as we can so it's gone. But we don't even use the liquid anymore because the salt is treated.
Okay. Under street lighting, the next item down, I was kind of confused by this, Tracy, because we actually spent in 17-18 52,000. Then we dropped down, which I can't believe, to 3,000. And then this year's budget was 23,500. And we've actually spent about 12,700 to date, about 50%. And we're proposing another 23,500. Do you think our street lighting will get us there to 23,500?
I think we can drop it a little bit. I'm just looking at the last couple of bills that have come in, have only been about 1,300 a month. So I would say we could probably knock it down to 19,000 would probably be enough.
Are the LEDs helping that?
No, this is the street lights that we bought the poles. So now we don't.
Oh, okay.
We used to pay for like renting the pole as part of the, so that it did go way down. We do put money into capital, or we did put money into capital. So when something happens with one of the lights, we're going to have to repair them.
Okay.
But the savings is here.
You think 20 would be okay?
Yeah, I do.
Everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Sounds good.
So 20,000 on that line? Okay.
Somebody's phone agrees. That is the right number.
On the engineering and water testing, I don't know what this is all about. It must have something more than the wells down at the highway department, because it went from 33,000 to 34,000 to 127,000.
Yep. The budget that we're in right now includes 75,000 for the engineering study of Nystrom's Dam. That's what we talked about a few meetings ago, where they haven't billed us for very much of it yet. So we're probably going to want to transfer some of that into a capital account because it's going to roll over into the next year.
All right. Okay. I wanted to discuss, and Ed, you maybe can shed some light on social services. Is that a 15-hour-a-week job?
Yes, it is. It's part-time. I'm not sure it's 15. It's
18.
18, isn't it?
6-hour days.
Yeah.
18 hours?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. It has, I don't know, where does she get her money for the crisis fund?
Donation.
Just
Principally
donations?
from donations, Rotary, and a lot of other individuals who simply send funds forward. We only contribute, I believe, 1,000 a year. Is that what it is, Tracy?
Yeah.
That's what's here.
Yeah.
It seems, I mean, Rotary Club we've really come to the aid of social services this year on several different occasions, because social services had almost less than $100 in their bank account. And we've had discussions that we can't keep doing this. And it seems to me that there should be some money expended to help give her a hand as far as her ability to help people out, and she shouldn't have to depend on the Rotary Club when she's down to less than $100 in her bank account.
George, I certainly wouldn't argue against increasing that account. It's just, the only reason we have not ever asked for more is simply because she has always seemed to be able to manage. Now, whether it's principally the Rotary who comes to the rescue, it may well be, but she has always seemed to manage that quite well by getting donations and so on. So we've never simply asked for more in that area, but certainly I wouldn't stand opposed to it.
I think we're going to be entering into a time, Ed, where we're going to have some more demands put on that department just because of the number of people that aren't working right now, and maybe some businesses going out of business. And I'd certainly like to see some money going into social services, you know, even.
As again, I would not be opposed. I think whatever the Board of Finance decides and is appropriate number for that line is more than acceptable.
I've got a figure in my mind, and I've let everybody talk about this, but I was thinking that we should give her $5,000 to put into her fund as well. She's still going to be raising money and need to raise money, but I don't know what everybody thinks about that.
You're talking about specifically it going into the Crisis Management Fund, correct?
Yes, yeah. So when people come in with a specific need, there's some money there that she can help with.
Understood.
You know.
Tracy,
Yeah.
what line is that fund in the spreadsheet?
It's actually all the way down at the bottom. It says transfer to social services. It's 900.
It's the bottom of page 6, Rich.
Well, that's the social services department, George. That's like her operating expenses. The money that she actually, she's a separate fund. It's not part of the budget, but we do have the very last account is a transfer to her fund of $1,000.
That's
George, what are you proposing? Bringing that to 5,000 or adding 5,000?
No, bringing it to 5.
So adding 4,000?
Correct. Well, whatever. If you guys feel you want to do more than that, that's
I was thinking, just considering what's happening right now and how many people are in serious need, I was figuring more.
Okay.
Let me just add that she also has the ability to go outside of the Crisis Management Fund to some of the other agencies, Salvation Army, and those types who do contribute and assist in many ways also. So don't look at it like this fund is in isolation, okay? By the same token, I wouldn't argue the increase to 5,000 or whatever you guys decide. But understand, George, she has resources beyond.
George, if I may?
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
You know, I know I'm aware, and I'm sure many of you are aware that's always been the case. She's always had those resources.
Correct.
Considering the pandemic right now, and I don't think we need to do this every year, but certainly for this coming year, I think we should be increasing the amount of money that the town is providing for those additional resources, even if it's just this one time event, because I think there's going to be a lot more people that have been knocked down this year that are going to have to try and get on their feet.
Right.
And they're going to be going to social services, and I'm sure those other agencies are also stressed with their resources. Yep. Which is why I'm along the same lines as George, that we need to increase this. Just a matter of how much at this point.
Yep.
Mike, what were you thinking?
I was thinking 10 to make a real difference. You know, you're talking about people who are going to lose their apartments because they can't pay their rent. They can't put food on the table. They have no means to get to an interview, a job interview, because a car is broken down. It runs the gambit as what the issues are, from what I've
Yeah,
in my experience talking with our social services director.
When she has somebody that's about to be evicted, you know, an apartment in Thomaston is going to be $800 a month. If she
Right.
spent 1 month to keep that person afloat, she's lost her entire budget. It's gone.
Tracy, have you been plugging the changes in as we go along?
Yes.
So can you tell me what the percent change was in cell 0502 before we made the change and where we are now?
You know what? I don't know what it was before, but it's a negative 0.1% right now. So we're oh, okay. So it was, we were increasing expenses by 39,999, and now we're decreasing them by 27,901. No, I'm sorry. Hold on.
You know, see how that's at the last, on the last page? I have just a couple more things to get us to that line. Could we hold off on that last line for social services?
Sure.
And I have just on page 7, I have one item I wanted to question about, and that's under Parks and Recreation, rental of equipment. And we went from 2,400 to 2,500. We jumped it up to 7,100. And to date, we've spent 2,600. So I'm not sure what comes under that, Tracy, rental equipment.
I know it's the porta potties at all of the parks, and he hasn't received any bills because they're closed right now. But I'm going to look and see what else we included. I know that we were just talking about that the other day. So I know that was part of it.
You might be seeing them soon. I think they opened today because I saw a truck up at Highwood.
Finally picked it up.
Finally lifting the one that fell over.
All right, well, maybe we'll have a better handle on that in the next couple of weeks. And then a couple of things on page 8, a couple of questions I had. Teachers' retirement contributions. We had budgeted, let's see, excuse me, total budgeted 15 million, and we've only spent 10 million so far.
Okay, so the teacher's retirement, that was the separate line because that was, you know, the state was saying we were going to have to kick in a share. And then after we passed the budget, they eliminated that. So that's why we didn't spend any of that.
Okay.
On the Board of Ed side, through April, they've spent 75% exactly, 11,442,000.
So they're right there.
So they're pretty cool.
Okay.
They also have some balloon payments at the end of the year, so their salary does go up in June.
Okay. And then that's all I have. So that brings us down to social services.
So George, I have a question.
Yep.
I meant to ask it last time we met, but I didn't. If we have to host primaries and elections via mail or some other method, does that increase or decrease those costs? And it's kind of a stupid question, but I don't know anything about it.
Yeah, I'm not sure because you're not going to have the poll workers if they went completely virtual, which I don't think they're going to do, or by mail. So you may not need as many machines operating if they have a big turnout, but you'd never know until that day. So I think you'd probably have to hire the same number of people to work there just in case.
Okay.
You know,
If we have 2,500 households and we have to mail to each one of those households, actually,
I think
each
we have
person.
more than.
Yeah, it'd be each voter.
I think we have closer to 4,000 households.
Do we?
Yeah,
I don't know where I got 2,500 from.
yeah.
So does that mean we have to maybe potentially budget for sending mail to 4,000 households, and then per voter per house? I mean, how many multi-voter households do we have?
I'm sure many.
I don't know yet. I don't know. I'm just asking a question like, I don't know what's going to happen in November, but we do have a couple primaries, right?
Primary's been pushed off till August.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how it works. So it was a question I asked. I was just thinking about like, does this increase or decrease our expenses?
I think it's
Excuse me, if
definitely
whoever's having the conversation could mute themselves, we can hear it in the background.
I think that
Thank you.
it's going to definitely increase. Because I think that staffing will be the same, but even if it was 4,000 households at 50 cents for postage, and then you have to go through printing and all, it's going to be probably $3,000, something like that.
George, you will not want to approach this in the same way you do some other items. If in the inevitable it comes about and they need to come before the board and simply ask for more money for the obvious reason, we now have to do all this printing and mailing. Good way to approach it.
Yeah, because we have our contingency. So.
Yep.
So put social services back on the spot. Do we want to go to 7,500 or 10,000 for that?
I concur.
So
I concur with Mike. I think 10 is probably the better way to go here. Not that we're,
I just have a question. So Tracy, if you adjust L499 by adding $9,000, that brings that line to $10,000.
Yeah.
What is 0502?
So 502, Rich.
The percent increase.
The total budget.
Oh.
And we are at a 0.13 increase in expenditures, 35,099 increase.
So if you took all those, the additions, well, they were all subtractions, I think, but one addition, where would we come up with?
It's almost a wash. Our mill rate ends up at 36.14 instead of 36.15.
So it didn't really change anything.
No, using the 9,000 increase for social services, that pretty much washed out all the cuts that we made along the way.
Okay. All right. Now, did everybody get the message I sent out at this evening? I got a text message from Board of Education's finance director at 5:07 tonight. Did everybody get that, or check your messages?
Yes.
Yeah, I saw it.
So basically, what they did is I should say, Todd gave us two things to look at, which is where we're saving money in this year's budget and what he proposes to pay down on next year's budget to come up with a zero increase. And I told Francine I'd like to sit down with her in more detail on this before the hearing, but I don't know if anybody has any comments. wish Luke was here because he certainly had some comments last time.
Yeah, I mean, so this, what I don't see here, unless I'm missing something, I opened, I think there was only one document attached. Is that correct?
There is, but if you scroll all the way to the side, it has both the beginning portion shows where the money is. I'm having a hard time opening this on my phone. So it shows that they're going to be paying, let's see.
Yeah, just what I didn't see is I see where the money's coming from.
Yep.
I don't see where the money's going to.
That's where I was a little confused too. I see 2021 budget where there's a reduction.
They show the 2019-2020 budget, and that shows where the money's coming from. You see it all the way over to the end?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's one piece missing. So we have where they expect the surplus to be from this budget, and we have the piece where they're going to remove it from next year's budget. But wasn't there supposed to be a spend down that they were going to tell us where they're going to spend it?
Yes, that's in the first portion. In the first portion, Mike, they show that they're going to pay down $212,500 on pensions. Debt service is being reduced by $55,000. Health benefits will be reduced by $51,000. So that's all in this year's what they're going to do.
So that's also the pay down. That's the pay down that they're going to do in this year's budget.
Correct.
Is to pension and okay. All right, I understand.
Yeah, I really haven't. I didn't have a chance to talk to her about that because we asked for that twice. I got it at 5 o'clock today, so I got to sit down with her and get an explanation, like what's happening with data processing. I just don't know. I know certified personnel, they've replaced some people. One person retired, and they hired somebody at a smaller salary, so you got some savings there. I don't know what replacement of instructional equipment is, unless that's the Chromebooks.
Yes, that's the Chromebook.
It's Chromebooks, okay. So I'll go through this in detail and try to get you out an explanation, but I just got it at 5 o'clock, so I really haven't had a chance to take too much of a look at it.
Yeah, I think one of my questions here, George, is if you look at column E, and perhaps Tracy knows this, is that a reduction in their 2021 budget?
Yes. For instance, the $51,000 in health benefits, our original increase was supposed to be 9.9% on health benefits, and we negotiated that down. So that would have been an actual cut in their budget, regardless of anything else going on.
Okay, so I think one thing that's important for us to quantify so we know what we're facing next year, and this is to Luke's point, right? So if you take column E and you make those adjustments, what would their increase be if they did not have column F, say, right? So, because whatever that increase is, we're going to face that plus whatever increases they have next year in the next fiscal year. I'm quite honestly, I'm more concerned about next fiscal year than I am about this fiscal year, with super high unemployment rates, a massive reduction in the state's tax receipt. I mean, we don't know where we're going to be.
There's going to be a loss of revenue, no doubt.
Oh, no doubt. No doubt. Right. So, look, all the bars and restaurants are closed. You could just start there, right? Not to mention every other non-essential business, sorry, but that's what I stare at all day long. So, and that's 20% of my business gone. So, so all that combined together, we have to sort of, I'm more concerned about next year than I am about this year. So what I'd like to know is, as we take column E out, what does that leave us from an increase over last year before we adjust it with column F, right?
Yeah, I think it's that 359, which is a pretty big number.
Did you say 359?
Yeah, column F are the actual increases that they're using other sources to offset.
And what is that on a percentage basis, Tracy? Do you know?
I don't know, but I can plug it in.
Probably what, like six tenths of a mil or something like that.
Look, I'm not against this whatsoever, right?
2.3.
I'm sorry, Tracy?
2.3.
We were
2.3.
Yes.
Right. I mean, so here's Luke's point. Next year, if they come in completely flat, that will be an increase over this fiscal year of 2.3%. If they come in completely flat, and we know that they typically don't come in flat. I don't know what their contractual employment obligations are for next fiscal year. You have to add that on top of that, right? I mean, look, if half our budget comes in at plus 5%, we're going to be in trouble. So again, I'm not saying we shouldn't do this. I'm just saying we have to understand what is coming, and that is what is coming right there.
Yeah.
I guess what's the alternative to not doing this though? What if we don't do this? They're still going to have a surplus this year, right?
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, Steve.
Oh no, and I get that. I'm just for my own self conceptually. I'm just so
If you want my honest opinion, Steve, here's my honest opinion. So I'm sorry to say this, but I'm just going to say it because it's super frustrating to me because I come from a different place, I guess. I've been on the board for, I don't even know how long, a while, long enough, right? To have gone through several of these processes. Next year, we have to force every single department through a zero-based budgeting exercise. We need to look at every single cost. We cannot sit on these calls and have people say, yeah, we think we're going to make that number. That's not zero-based budgeting. That is totally not zero-based budgeting. And I don't mean any disrespect to anyone who worked incredibly hard on these budgets this year. I do not. But next year, I am so super concerned about where we're going to be from an economic standpoint that we need to scrub every single number and seriously put the time and effort into a bottom-up zero-based budget. Because this is not that. It's not. I'm sorry. A zero-based budget means that everyone who comes on can answer every question and can tell us how every single piece of this budget is built up. And it's built from zero. That's what zero-based budgeting is. I know it sounds trite, but it's not. It's extremely important for next fiscal year that we scrape every single nickel. So that is the alternative, in my opinion, Steve. That's the answer to your question.
Okay.
And I'm sorry. I don't mean any offense to anyone who's put a tremendous amount of time toward this budget, but I just don't feel like we're being careful enough. And next year, it will be absolutely critical that we do so. So I think I understand where we are with what came from the Board of Ed team. I'm okay with that. And I think that, I think we've done with George's analysis of the line by line, I think that we should bring that social services line up to 10 grand. That's my 2 cents.
And I agree with you, Rich. I just wanted to mention that the way I was looking at this is that if Board of Ed's going to have a surplus this year, and if they didn't apply it to expenses for next year, we would be putting that money, or a large part of that money, into that 2% account earmarked for education. And it would be used for next year's budget anyway. We probably want them to use it anyway, not just for capital, but to try to keep things down. So I think what they're doing now is they're saying, okay, we'll pay down on next year's budget. So they're going to pay things this year that we won't have to pay next year. And that's why the budget's going to be lower. And I see that it's going to go up after that. But I was intending always to use some of that surplus to try to level things out, because now we're up to over 15%, I believe, in surplus. And so certainly next year's budget, I'll be looking at, depending on our revenue line, I'll be looking at using some of the surplus to try to level that out too. But I agree with you that we have to, tonight was a good exercise. Maybe next year we'll get even tougher on things. So, well, it's not going to be good, that's for sure. So we've got a few things to do. Fire department is going to get us some information. I'll try to sit down and get a better explanation for you to send out to you on the Board of Education's information they gave us tonight. What's going to happen next is we'll have a hearing, and it's going to be a virtual hearing. I don't know how the hell that's going to work, but it's going to be a virtual hearing, and then followed up by a called meeting of the Board of Finance to make any final adjustments. And then we're going to follow that up with setting a mill rate and sending it to the selectmen. This year, there won't be a referendum and there won't be a town meeting on the budget. It will be passed by the Board of Selectmen. So it's important, I think, that we try to get as many people involved in this hearing as possible. And Stacy, I don't know how we're going to do this. If we're going to have to ask people to mute themselves and only ask to be recognized, to go off of mute to be recognized. I don't know how we're going to do that.
Well, while you guys have been having your discussions, I've more or less kept everybody unmuted, but I think for that sort of a scenario, and we can talk later, you may want to consider having everybody muted except for actual members of your board. And then they can raise their hand, or they can indicate in the chat if they had something they wanted to say.
Yeah, we'll have to find ways to get this budget out to people. I know we hand out copies of budgets at our regular hearings. We can't do that, so it's got to be online, the budget. We might want to put it in the newspaper, and try to get it out to the people, maybe even entertain that they send written questions or comments to the town where we can try to address them at that hearing, or answer.
George, I did set up an email address for that. I set up an email address, budget@thomastonct.org, so that people can send in questions. And I'll include that when I put the budget on our webpage, so people will know what the email address is.
Okay, and so that'll be in the newspaper soon, maybe, so we can start getting that, like maybe a press release, Ed?
Once you guys establish a budget and we can get it out there so that everybody is aware of what that budget is, then Tracy can begin to receive their comments via email. And yeah, at that point in time, we'll put a summary up in the newspaper. I think that would be wise. Would you agree, Tracy? And certainly it would be online. And yes, I can get a news release out there and put it on our website and Facebook pages and so on to make folks aware of it so that they can participate and comment. I think that's what we're required to do so that you can then meet in a public hearing format and make your adjustments after the fact.
Right. So are we at that point? Should I be publishing it now prior to a public hearing, or are you going to meet again before that?
Well, we need what's 5 days, Ed, on the public hearing?
I'm trying to remember.
I think it is.
Yeah, minimum 5/15, but
Yeah.
in this situation, putting the budget out that everybody has to go and look at and be able to comment on, I think we want to give them probably closer to that 15 than the 5 days. We don't want to cut them short and have people feel that they had no opportunity to respond.
Yeah. Well.
So
what
to
we could
Tracy's
do-
question, is this the budget you want to present? And if so, we'll begin to move forward with it and then receive comments and make adjustments at your public hearing. I mean, you can do that or following your public hearing. That's
Well,
entirely up to you, George.
I think we ought to go ahead and go forward with the budget tonight. I know there's some loose ends. The fire department's going to get us some information. We need to get a little more information from the Board of Ed, but if we go forward with it tonight, as it stands, in Tracy, as it stands, the Board of Ed would have a 0% increase. Trace?
Yes. Yep. 0% for the Board of Ed. The total budget would be $27,277,305 with a 36.14 mill rate.
Okay, so we could go ahead today, knowing that we're going to have one more whack at the budget after the hearing. Let's go ahead, even though we don't have all the information, go ahead and approve the budget as it stands. Have the hearing based on what we have right now, maybe in 3 weeks or something like that. So probably like the 3rd week of May. And then go ahead and we'll have our meeting and set it after we have the hearing on it. By that time, we'll have all of the information in from the fire department and from the Board of Ed.
Sounds like a plan. Can you vote on sending this? Do you have enough members to vote on this, to send it forward?
Yeah, we've got a quorum here tonight.
Okay.
So we can go ahead and vote on it tonight and then send it. Well, then you'll have to get it.
Yeah, Tracy and I will go to work on it tomorrow if you send this forward tonight.
Okay. All right.
And if I may just ask for my own clarification, I think you have a regular meeting scheduled for May 12th. Would you still be having that?
Probably not. I don't know. What does everybody think? Do you think you want to go and have one more quick meeting before this? I think we still have to approve it tonight. And then you can either have one more quick meeting before the hearing or wait till after the hearing and have your final meeting.
If you approve it tonight, there's little value in having another meeting. You're not going to make any
Correct.
adjustments at that point.
Right.
Either you hold it off to your next meeting, or you simply cancel your next meeting and move forward with things tonight.
Yeah. I'm inclined to think we just go ahead and put it out right now and we'll make the final adjustments after the hearing.
You can certainly do that.
That would be our typical move.
You all right with that, Mike?
Yeah.
Okay, Rich, you okay with that?
Yeah, that's fine.
All right, and Stephen?
Steve, are
Yes,
you?
I am. Yeah, I am.
Okay.
Yes.
Um,
Contending with a
Right, then.
barking dog and yelling children.
I'm really pleased that you wore a tie to the meeting, though. It's
Well, I had to see how the, but I'm not wearing pants though, Rich.
Tracy, can I have the final number on the budget?
27,277,305. Mill rate 36.14.
Okay, so I'd entertain a motion to go forward with a budget for the 2021 fiscal year in the amount of $27,277,305 and a 36.14 mill rate. Is there a motion to that effect?
So
So
moved
moved.
by a second by Steve Turner.
Tilio moved it.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion's carried.
Tracy, can I have a copy of the spreadsheet?
On its
Want
way.
to send it over here too?
On its way.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Thanks. In favor?
Aye.
Okay, opposed, carried. Thank you all.
Have a
Appreciate
good
it.
night.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Be safe,
Good
everybody.
night, everybody.
Yep,
Tracy, you and
Tracy,
I will
thank
touch
you.
base tomorrow.
Yep.
Not a problem.
All right. Thanks again, everybody. Bye-bye.
See ya.
See ya.
Bye.